not only was session 13 of the Lost Manor Phandelver the best session that I think we've all had, I think it's the best we're gonna get. And it's especially because we've spoken to our DM about problems that we might be having. We had a bit of a round table. Unfortunately, one of the players couldn't attend because they were at work. But this is the kind of episode that comes about when you actually talk to your players about problems that you're having, and that you air them out because other people might be feeling the same way. So I have to thank all the players of Group 89, whose new name will be revealed very soon. I say very soon. This is going to be a very, very long session recap. Yeah, I'd like to thank all the players and our wonderful DM Michaela as well for actually being very accommodating and actually listening to and applying our feedback. I had said previously that I wasn't feeling overly included in the games, but I was actually given some more opportunities. My opinion was taken into consideration, and yeah, I was able to get a lot done. And there was, like I said, well, you'll see soon enough, but there were a lot of things that I brought to the table that I would not have done. In fact, this whole session could have gone completely differently. It would have been very sterile, very clinical, had we just felt the way we did without talking about this a few days before the game. So, yeah, that's some advice to players immediately. Talk to your DM, talk to other players if you've got a problem. So, we begin the session by basically saying we're going to take a short rest in the southeasternmost room of Cragmaw Castle, because Shoria and Eliza have taken a few hits from the goblin cultists or priests or whatever they were, shaman maybe, and the Grick that had ambushed the players that were ambushing the goblins. So, while this was going on, Emil, Ellie, and I decided that we weren't going to use this time to rest. However, we would perhaps try and barricade the door that we came in, just in case any goblins tried to come along and ambush us. Now, there was still one room left to investigate, and unfortunately, poor old Ellie had to investigate that room, and while invisible, with Shoria's spell, Castellet, and unfortunately all she found was basically the designated toilet, a bucket that was, well, full to the brim. While this was going on as well, we decided to hide the bodies in case anyone tries to come into this room after getting through the barricade of barrels and crates, barrels and boxes in the room above where we were resting, not above, but north of where we were resting, where we came in. And yeah, so we hid the bodies behind. Well, I hid the bodies behind the altar, and then I chucked the Grick corpse over the barrels and the bodies, the barrels and boxes. To which Shoria said that I was being very reverent with the bodies, and I just hoy this thing across the room. So, what else is going on? Just bear with me. While Shoria's resting, about 10-15 minutes into the rest, she hears doors shutting and conversation towards the north, more northwest into what appears to be the main part of the castle. And then finally a goblin comes to the door that we came in, just rapping on the door, going, "Food's ready!" And then goes to another door and goes, "Food's ready!" etc. And like doors are shutting and slamming and things like that. I have to give credit to our DM for actually like describing all of the rooms all the doors being shut and slammed and whatnot. So so we have a good idea of how many rooms there are in the building. That was really, really helpful. So also as well, while on the short rest, Shoria, using her detect magic, tells me that the school of magic of this silver bell has a slight tinge of the transmutation school of magic, and that I could spend the short rest just studying it, but I thought, no, I'm not going to do that yet. I've got other things to be doing, and I spent a lot of this rest period doing intensive things of like dragging bodies and making sure they're somewhat dignified, lying on the floor. So we originally thought that we were going to go into the room with the bucket and sort of go into the main area, but it doesn't look as though that's going to be the plan. So Ellie, with her invisibility, still got about like well into an hour of it left. She decides to run out the back of the castle where we entered, and she sprints around the front to the front door. She rolls a 26, a natural 20 plus 6, to sneak and sprint out the door and find the front door. The front doors of the castle have been knocked down, battered, blown to smithereens, essentially. Quite clearly, as though this place has been stormed by like just sheer force, rather than like being besieged or anything like that. And there is a single goblin sentry on watch, and he's just sort of like leaning against the wall there, just like picking away at his teeth with what appears to be some sort of toothpick or stake, possibly, from the broken down door. And she just zips ahead, just absolutely fine, no problems at all. Ellie sees an alarm bell. She sees what she assumes is an alarm bell, and she rolls a 25 sleight of hand to make the bell silent. So anyone who tries to pull the string or whatever, try to get it going, it's not going to make a sound. It's just going to stay there. Much to the frustration of anyone trying to ring it. So she's now going to go from the main sort of like not courtyard, but from like the entrance. There's now like a hall, and it can lead into two. There's two doors leading into what we later discover to be one big room. And she can also go west. So she's going to go west and then look north and south, and just to see what's there. So from this main room, she hears boisterous language and laughter through the nearby door, and it's the same in the other. So we are wondering now: is this the same room? Because like the same sort of conversation and the volume of it, in both the amount of people speaking and the I guess the height of the volume is in the sound is also quite great. So with a 16 perception, Ellie's going to another room and there's silence. So she's now going to go into the southernmost room. To the southwesternmost room. And she opens the door to see some high quality supplies, and our DM was about to say you would recognise these as being stolen supplies, but unfortunately Ellie doesn't realise that's the MO of the Cragmaws yet, that we know as like, so for example, if the original Group 89 before Ellie had joined had seen these supplies, we would know that the Cragmaws have not only been stealing supplies and taking them to Cragmaw hideout, they've also been taking them to the castle as well. So I must check the symbols there just to see if they are like of the Lion Shield Costa again. But that can wait, and unfortunately we didn't actually have, or rather fortunately, we didn't have time to check. So she opens, so she's seeing these supplies, and she's not going to take much time to look through them, but they do seem to be better quality than what was in the barrels of the room that we were staying in to rest, which mostly mouldy corners and like bite marks from mice and possibly goblins who are a bit bored. So she's now going south of this room, and she can hear some conversing, very light conversing. We imagine it could possibly be another toilet. And now, with a 7 perception. Oh yeah, she's listened to another door to the northwest of this room that she's now in, and with a 7 perception, she can hear footsteps and a latch turning. Ellie immediately bolts across the room to hide into the rubble, and does so successfully. I mean, she had to take advantage because she's invisible, so she gets a 20 with her stealth, and sees not a normal goblin, of which we will later discover what they are. She looks into the room into the door as it was open, as this goblin has come through, and something spooks her in this room. And she's like, nope, 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 don't want to be there. So, as she's sort of inspecting the contents of this room, the bugbear, not bugbears, excuse me, it's not a bugbear, it's something else. This, I might as well just say it now, hadn't I? This hobgoblin. This hobgoblin now returns, seeing like the door open from where Ellie was there, and he shuts it behind him, comes back, and he goes back into that room again. About 5 minutes has passed. So now she's going to return to the party, not being able to see much more going on, and she relays all this information to us. And because she's still invisible, like sort of like knocking on the door, just saying, "Hey guys, it's me. Can I come in?" Emile is a little bit spooked. Shorty outrolls her hit die. She gets 3 to begin with, and then 7 afterwards. That's a total of 10. And then Eliza gets 12 as well. I think she uses some other ability, I'm not sure, to get back extra hit die or something. I wasn't quite paying attention to that, but I think unless it was just 12 hit die. We can always look through the logs or whatever. Not that it's overly important, even then I think we're going to be healing up after the beginning of the next session. So a call comes from the door again. Food's ready! And the guard, this goblin just grumbles, and they shut the door. Seeing it's slightly ajar from where the makeshift barricade was before. Shortly just before we decide to leave, she inspects the altar and doesn't detect any spells or rituals. It just seems to be very mundane, that these goblins don't really have that much magical power, or are perhaps trying to attract power to this, as Shoria was suggesting, like they were just saying, "We love you, Bane, we love you, Bane," which seems to be the case, because that's as effective as it was. So we're now going to the front door. Our characters are lined up outdoors, waiting to push into the castle's front door. And there is a goblin that Ellie's going to attempt to assassinate while sneaking, which means that her invisibility will break. She rolls a 15 to try and assassinate the goblin, and Eliza's not quite close enough to do really much with him, so she's going to summon her echo into a little alcove near the front door and just try and maybe perhaps swap places or whatever if she needs to rush in and silence us. Ellie rolls a 15 for stealth to try and assassinate the goblin, and unfortunately, as she's just getting ready to go in and thrust a dagger, unfortunately, she kicks a pebble, which is enough just to alert the goblin that there's something wrong. And so Ellie, rather spectacularly, because I remember Ellie having Nipper, but I didn't think that she might know him or whatever. Ellie brings out her mouse, a pet mouse, Nipper, and just lets it run across the other side of the hallway. And the goblin just looks and goes, "Okay, yeah." So, giving her some plausible deniability. The goblin with his short bow and shoddy scimitar goes, "Nah, just a rat." and proceeds to prop himself back up against the wall, picking at his teeth and gums with the toothpick. Ellie now rolls to attack, and she gets a 13 with advantage with a rapier, and she does 13 damage, and that's essentially exactly what she needed to just kill this guy. And stabs him through the neck to stop him from screaming, but there is a bit of a gurgle. Ellie picks Nipper up and apologises for using him for bait, and you know, she's now fully visible, having used her attack to slay the goblin. So now we think that we're going to take the southwesternmost room. We could go into the room. We could assault the main room, but we're thinking no. We'll try and clear out the surrounding rooms first, just to make sure that everything is hokey dory. However, this is going to require some stealth because we need to get into the building itself. We all have to roll stealth rolls. This is where things start to go. Things go bad from here, or good, depending on your perspective. Like I say, if it weren't for things like this, this would not be the best session we ever had. Stealth rolls. Let's start with top to bottom. So, excuse me a second. I'm choking. Swallow a bit of spit there. Shortia rolls a natural 20 for stealth. Well done. Eliza rolls a 16. Ellie rolls a 14. Emil rolls a 7. Garveld, with disadvantage in his armour, rolls 2 4s. RDM rolled a natural 20 for passive perception. For perception, because the goblin in a room directly across from, rather right next to the goblin with arrow slits, fires an arrow through and just barely misses myself, Emil, and Shortia. And we have, however, alarmed one of the goblins. And just as I'm sort of kneeling down to cover this goblin's eyes, make him a bit more dignified from to we roll initiative. So the initiative count is, for Emil, uncharacteristically quite high, 18. Ellie rolls 17. This goblin that we know of rolls 16. Shortia rolls 14, Garveld rolls 12, and Eliza rolls 8. So Emil Leroy Jenkins it. He's rushing straight into the fray because he wants to silence the sentry as best he can and not alert anyone else. So at least the alarm bell's not working, so that's good. So Ellie's doing so as well. She's going to use all the actions she can try and get to just get into the room to the south. Our plan of breaching, like having heavies go into the northwesternmost room, so like we've got the heavies on the southwesternmost side of the walls, southwestern door, we've got the lighter characters on the northeastern wall, and then the baddies in that room where we know there's bedrolls and the thing that spooked Ellie. That's all gone now. That plan's completely over, so we're now going to have to just get into this room, deal with the sentry, and hopefully resume the plan from there. So the goblin on its turn tries to shoot me through the arrow hole again, and it flees, only to run into Ellie. Gah! And Ellie, as a reaction, one-shots the goblin with 12 damage. Shortia now runs to the northwest door just to peek the door, to try and see if she can see what's within. And things don't go. This is where things go wrong. This is the exact moment where things go wrong. I decide that I'm going to sprint to where Shortia is, because she's essentially on her own as far as I can tell, and I snag a wire. This is where the title comes from. With a dexterity saving throw of 9, I unfortunately don't miss the rubble that is now falling from the ceiling as this well-placed trap now comes crashing down on me, doing a whole 2 damage. So, when I say everyone dies, that's a bit clickbaity, but more on that later. So I've taken a bit of a hit, bit of a concussion, not mechanically, but any bad choices I make, I'll blame on the concussion. In fact, to be honest, I think it was that actually made me play pretty well later. So, Ellie attempts to. No, I think that's supposed to be Eliza. Sorry, I must correct that. So Eliza now attempts to block the door where the feast is. Where this feast seems to be taking place. She's blocking the door, or at least one of the doors. There are 2, but she's got to try and block the door as best as she can, because now this rubble has created a load of noise that is now going to attract a lot of attention. There is silence in that room now. Shocked silence. Everyone is stunned, and things are only going to go from bad to worse. The goblin in the lower room bangs on the door and yells, swiping at Eliza, failing miserably. I think that might have meant to be Ellie. I'm not sure. I always get those 2 mixed up. I do apologise, ladies. Emil channels divinity to make his warhammer blaze like heated metal, and now that things are really kicking off, the hobgoblins roll a 4 initiative, which we're supposed to ignore that. So, the second round of combat begins. I'm going to have to try and find where I am in these pictures. Okay, that one's a bit more interesting to look at. So, round 2. Ellie shoots and misses another goblin. This is unfortunately... Ellie is very much hit and miss, so to speak, with this with today's session. As more creatures are now revealed. Our DM has this invisible token, so to speak, so like we can see into other rooms, but like we have to obviously roleplay it. Like any rooms that we've been into, we can have this invisible token that will reveal things that other characters have seen, but obviously we don't know that they're there yet. So we have to sort of like play up to that. So anyway, so we have these 4 hobgoblins are revealed in this room that spooked Ellie, and I believe that might have been the only thing that spooked her. I don't know. So anyway, Ellie shoots and misses the goblins, and a burly voice calls from behind the boulder. Oh yes, Eliza had managed to get a boulder. I don't know where from, so I'm missing that detail. I hope they can tell me that. She blocks one of the doors of the boulder, and a burly voice shouts, "What's going on?" Poor Shoria is now sort of in the room and is noticing as well that the door and Ellie standing there on watch, and she says, "I don't want to be taken from behind." Well, not in game. Much laughter ensued. Shoria to me, ongoing to regroup. So I'm trying to get back with the party instead of breaching that room. Oh yes, that's right, because Shoria was at the northwesternmost door where the rubble had hit me, narrowly missing Shoria, and she's trying to run now back to the room where Ellie is, and I'm going to try and cover the exit. We were. So she's going to launch an Eldritch Blast, and for 17, and does 2 damage. And I think she was perhaps shooting into... I think she was killing one of the goblins in this room. I haven't got the notes on that, I'm afraid. And I'm going to move a bit closer, and I'm going to ask the DM, this rubble, could I use it to barricade the door, the northwestern door that we were originally, the lighter characters were originally going to breach? And And they said yes, you could. So I'm going to use it, and now this was going to be a DC 15, but it was eventually turned into my DC of, I think, 12 or 13. I think the DM was being generous with the DC 13. So anyway, so I barricade the door using my action to mold the earth and push it against the door, and to try and lock the hobgoblins in that room in. I then run to the door that I just push open, stand next to Ellie and barricade it, like just trying to hold the door shut as best I can. I've put here, everyone like that, and this is something I want to diverge from a bit. It's something that Shoria's player was saying to me, and it's something that I've kind of been waiting for. It's like, when does D&D, when will I be able to do the things that I want to do in D&D that I can't do in a video game? And the answer is now. That's the time. That's what they said. That's what D&D is all about. And I thought, you know what? Yeah, it is, because I wasn't like, technically, Mold Earth can't really barricade the door, but I described it thematically, and as written, no, I probably couldn't do it. But it was thematically made sense. So I barricaded the door with the rubble there that was enough to create some difficult terrain for the enemies walking through it. But yeah, I wanted to make sure that door was barricaded. So that was really good. That apparently bought the party loads of time and had the enemies funneling through this one door. So basically, we were now not necessarily trapped in this room. The enemies were trapped in here with us. We have this really good defensive position now. We have this room where we were in control of the situation, where we could funnel them through this this sort of like southern door towards the north of the map, towards the northwest of the map. We could funnel them through this one door, and if they wanted to get through me, they had to get Ellie and Shoria and me in this other door from the main hallway. So yeah, so we weren't really planning any of this, but this sort of goes to show that we don't really need to strategize all that much and really need to communicate to each other all that much. We kind of have our own ideas of what we want to do, and I think I'm going to be using this Mold Earth a bit more now, because I'm a bit more confident that I can use it for more thematic reasons rather than mechanical ones. Anyway, our DM Michaela has some difficulties with roll 20. Eliza asks, what the F is this, DM? Eliza on initiative tables. And Emil says, oh god, there's so many. To which our DM says, you could have infiltrated the food room and break them all. And yes, I don't think that was really going to work. We could have just gone straight into the food room and possibly avoided ourselves a fair few hours of very, very close victories, and well, and a bit more than that. Someone tries to ring the alarm bell in frustration, and it is silent, and Ellie's snickering at this. Eliza summons her echo and surrounds a goblin that has now walked through the room, seeing Eliza, Emil, and now this sort of like almost like liquid shadow standing in 3 dimensions before it. And unfortunately, she kills it only for the goblin to say, "Save me!" And Emil's saying, "Oh no, oh no!" as he feels for the goblin, and Shoria explains a story of how we had promised 2 goblins the title of king, and unfortunately my favourite one, Gauze, got killed, and the most treacherous one was going to use the title to perform dirty deeds done dirt cheap. So, Shoria is now telling Ellie that perhaps she should check out this room that had the goblin sentry shooting through the arrow holes, and Yeah, at least a bit concerned that Shori always wants her to inspect what may or may not be a toilet. So anyway, I'm going to create difficult terrain on the door, which pulls open on the outside. So if any enemies are going to try and pull the door open, I'm now going to have to try even harder. I'm going to be at a disadvantage because I'm now standing on difficult terrain, trying to contest the strength check of the enemy. A booming voice calls out in common, "Tell King Kroll we're under attack." Eliza holds her action. I roll 5 athletics to contest the door opening with disadvantage, and there's trouble I've put in capital letters. Oh yes, I've just actually seen the screenshot. Yeah, it's not good. I roll a 16 acrobatics to pull the first to push the first goblin back versus their 7. So now these goblins are trying to enter the room now, and I'm valiantly beating them back to make sure that they don't try and get into the room. Shorty rolls a 12 to hit and does 7 damage. Oh no, she doesn't. She misses the goblin in front of me. I think because I act as half cover, so its AC was a bit higher. So yeah, so unfortunately she couldn't. She had a line of sight, but it was still pretty tough. And I think unless its AC is higher because it has a shield and scimitar. I can't quite remember. I wasn't writing that bit down. So now Ellie's ready to action. Also rolls a 25 to hit, 14 damage to kill the goblin in front of me. Narrowly avoiding me, but at least thematically. 25 to hit, I think, is a pretty good shot. And I think she just like shoots it straight through the forehead, and like knocks it like a space back or something like that. So the hobgoblin in the northwesternmost room now is trying to leap through. Tries to run through the door. He stumbles, but he managed to leap over the goblin's corpse that Emil felt sorry for, and manages to catch himself, and is now standing in the doorframe, I believe. If I can just say, yeah, okay. And really should read my notes before I record. Yeah, so Emil rolls a 25 to hit and does 6 points of damage, and he knocks the hobgoblin prone with his shield. I think it's like his shield master feat that allows him to like knock enemies like 5 feet back or knock them prone. So he knocks this hobgoblin prone. And Eliza kills the hobgoblin with a 26 to hit. And I think this was later explained, but I don't know if it was in this particular circumstance. But if an enemy is sleeping or prone, you can perform coup de grace if you like perform a successful hit. Anyway, and I certainly think this would have definitely killed him because she rolls a 26 to hit, and as he's prone, he has no defense and is killed outright. I think the goblin. There's a goblin that shoots at me now. I think to my right, to the east, and I roll a natural 20 acrobatics check to push him back. Oh no, he shoots me, he fails, and so he's now going to try and climb in through the door, and I just push him back with a natural 20. And just as I'm rolling, our DM says, "I thought you rolled another 20. Oh my gosh!" As she sees my acrobatics, 18 plus 2. The Goblin Brute, because this is another kind of character, the Goblin Brute now rolls 17 to push through me. Now Emil's going into the room where all the hobgoblins were, and he rolls a 16 to hit with his warhammer. The hobgoblins use their longswords, but they miss Emil. Ellie enters the room with a 23 to hit and 17 damage. She kills one of the hobgoblins, so that's at least 2 that we know of down now. And she disengages and she goes back out the door, leaving Emil to his fate. Shorty casts guidance upon me, which she's going to do. Absolutely, unfortunately, this was wasted. I create a bonfire outside the door, and I slam the door shut, basically giving them the possibility of like, well, okay, what are they going to do? Are they going to try and come through this door and try and break the door down? We're about to see. The hobgoblin evades the fire and goes to where I mold earthed the door, and he's just barely squeezing through. So I imagine that the other goblins might be able to have a bit more, might have an easier time getting through than his rather bulky form. So Eliza is then going into the hobgoblin room again. She rolls a 15 with Talon, and she misses one of the hobgoblins within there. I'm pretty sure, I think it was a hobgoblin. I don't think it would have been much else because I wasn't there, but it was mostly hobgoblins in that room. So the goblins go to the room that I've barricaded now. They're now running that way. The goblin chef is a mini-boss, and I think DM credited Matt Colville for the idea of mini-bosses having their own abilities and feats and things like that, so that's kind of cool. So this goblin chef is just saying, "What are you doing? There's an opening over there!" So they're running around the create bonfire. Oh no, they've driven around it, and they go into the room where it was previously barricaded. So it's going to cost them a little bit more movement just to get past the bonfire, but it's not a whole amount, not a huge amount. So this door now is probably going to begin setting fire or whatever, and they're just going to get past it. A goblin rolls 19 to hit Eliza, and it does 4 slashing damage. A hobgoblin rolls 21 to hit and takes, I think they're meant to say, deals 12 damage. One goblin rolls 15 with their bow to hit Emil and misses. And the chef, we call them Yes Chef. The chef can rage, and I've put an O face, a shocked face. But only moves to Emil, because he can't do any other actions, because I think he uses his action to dash there. Emil rolls a 9 with his warhammer and misses, and he rolls a 4 to shove the goblin and also misses. Ellie runs into the room, she disengages and says, "If you want a piece of me, you're going to have to chase me," and she just keeps running into the room trying to lure enemies out, and very cleverly, but unfortunately it doesn't work. I use my turn to cast Mold Earth once again and just create a bit of rubble. In case they try to get through this door, and try to cover Shoria as best as can. Like, if they're going to try and run through this door, I want to make sure they're slowed down as much as possible before they get into the melee with Shoria. So, the goblins... oh no, hang on. So it's Eliza's turn. Eliza rolls 22 to hit someone, rolling 15 damage and downing them. She uses an action surge to roll 23 to hit again, and with 11 damage. The goblins don't like Eliza's echo. She attacked through her echo on the second attack, and she rolls a 24 to hit, natural 20, and does 7 damage. Emil gets half cover from the short bow attack. He's hiding behind a bedroll, or some sort of bed. It looks like a bedroll on the map, but it could have been a bed in terms of the description. And a 10 misses anyway, so that's fine. The brute, the goblin brute raging now, gets a disadvantage to hit Emil. He rolls an 8, and he rolls again, 7. And his mace attacks both miss twice. And Emil has some sympathy for going, yeah, I know what you mean. I've been there, I've done that. I've got the warhammer. Emil rolls to hit the yellow goblin, and he rolls 7, and he misses. Ellie rolls 19 to hit a goblin, 13 damage, and blows a raspberry, ducking out. Once again, trying to lure them out. Shoria Vicious Mockeries, one of the goblins, with a DC 13. And the goblin rolls 0. So I think it rolled like a 1, and it got like a -1 for its saving throw or something like that, and it does 3 damage and kills him. And Shoria can't think of an insult, so Elias suggests, excuse me, your brain doesn't work anywhere near as well as your attacks. To which Emil says, maybe stick with the day job, Eliza. And RDM instead says, "You're ugly," and he dies. So that was just as good, really. Emil says that Gundren better be alive at the end of this, and I suggest he better not be alive at the end of this. Much laughter. More appear as the door opens. Oh yeah, so in this room where Emil's now essentially, Emil and Eliza are essentially on their own, and Ellie's trying to lure them out into the room where myself and Shori and herself are, there is another door to the north, and there a booming voice bellows out as it asks, "Who dares enter my castle?" And Eliza, using the name that I'd suggested that she apparently really likes, she shouts, "The Wild Geese!" I suggested the Wild Geese because, and this I don't know why, but it kept me up and one night, and I just thought, okay, well, what could be like an abbreviation for our team? Because I was thinking of like the super high intensity team something for like Vox Machina's original name, and I thought, okay, we could use something like abbreviations. So I thought, okay, Garveld, Eliza, Emil, Shoria, Ellie spells G-E-E-S-E, Geese. So we called ourselves the Wild Geese, and there were several puns about that throughout this, I'm sure, and a lot of jokes about plucking feathers and whatnot. So she rolls. Poor Eliza. She rolls 11 to hit the goblin brute, but misses. Michaela, RDM, keeps saying that I keep forgetting that you're a paladin because you don't use smite. To which Emil responds, "I have to hit something to smite, Michaela." Very funny indeed. The brute chef, the goblin brute, a chef, now says, "Eat up!" And all the goblins, as if in unison, say, "Yes, chef!" And they reach into their pouches and they eat a snack that gives them temporary hit points, which is a feat that I was actually really tempted to get, but it didn't really suit my character. Like, the idea of, like, I mean, I suppose it could be like this guy who's really weird and obsessed with death is actually a good cook. It does also as well give you a +1 in wisdom. But yeah, the idea is that you can create snacks on a short rest and gain temporary hit points, and you can create like enough to feed like 10 people or whatever, so it's pretty good. We don't know how many hit points they get, but we assume this is going to be pretty bad. Hobgoblin attacks me for 21 and does 2 whole damage. I think at this point I've moved to the doorway. Yeah. Okay, so I think I'm in that doorway now where it's now Ellie and Emil in that room. So just bear with me. Emil rolls a bless, so providing a +4 to me and Emil on myself and Eliza. I don't know who else he cast it on, I'm afraid. I know there's one more person he cast it on, unless it was just himself. And yeah, so we got a +4 to like our attack rolls and things like that. Or skill uses, I'm not sure. Ellie uses her halfling nimbleness to go under me and to booming blade a hobgoblin with 8. And she decides to run away again. I am described as the MVP for holding the door, to which I make jokes about Hodor. I roll a Dex Acrobatics 19. Okay, so no, I haven't run back yet to where Emil is yet. I roll 19 Dex Acrobatics and 7. Oh, where am I stood there? I don't know. I roll Dexterity Acrobatics 19 and 7. One goblin succeeds making it through me and attacks 7 on me and misses. Shoria Vicious Mockeries a goblin doing 2 damage, and because it also loses like a d4 on its saving throws, or it gets disadvantage on its saving throws, that works really well with something I wanted to do. So this is something else that like works really well for team play, that if an enemy's taking damage, Shoria can Vicious Mockery it, and I can Toll the Dead, as well as reducing its saving throws, because Wisdom I don't think is a very common saving throw that's going to be happening. I realise that's very meta, but yeah, I suppose it also works as well with the theme idea as well, of like tolling someone who's taken a lot of damage and just finishing them off. So I Toll the Dead for 4 damage, and I think I kill that hobgoblin. I'm afraid I don't think Sharia has another insult for this one. So I summon my spiritual weapon North. It rolls a 6 and it misses. And Eliza's Echo... Oops, it is. Excuse me. Eliza's Echo is destroyed. Just bear with me, I'm just trying to find the page. So yeah, so the spiritual weapon's out, a second level spell slot has been used. Things, again, pretty bad. So, King Groll moves in now. He's bigger and he's bulkier than King Clark from the Cragmaw Castle. And he shouts, "I don't care if you're people or geese! I will pluck your feathers!" And Eliza rolls 21 to hit Groll with, I think, her I think he rushes in. And he takes 11 damage. And he uses his reaction to parry, but unfortunately, he fails. Oh no, sorry, no, she uses her Echo to stab Groll, because she's between him, his wolf, and the goblin chef that I'm seeing here. So yeah, now because I had cast Toll the Dead, I think they mistake Emil for the spellcaster. I think they've also... Oh yeah, he's also used some spells as well. So the Goblin Brute yells out to focus fire on the dwarf, which they can see, and they can only really see Emil. I've got a hobgoblin right in front of me, and so they do. The goblins call out, "Yes, chef!" Emil takes 4 damage, and he's going to then take the dodge action. Ellie attacks the goblin, harassing Shoria, because one of them made it into the room now, through the difficult terrain, and is now giving her a lot of grief. The goblin rolls 24 to hit and does 13 points of damage to Shoria, I believe. She then decides that she's going to sleep the goblins. She's then gonna so as she's casting this sleep spell on the goblins in the room where Emil is and the Echo, she's going to cast sleep, and this is one of the many clutch moments that was required. This is incredibly clever play. What did I write down? I don't think I wrote it down. But she rolls really high. I think she rolls like a 28 on like 5d8. So just bear with me. 5 times. No. Do it this way. 5 times. No. Yeah, okay, right. 5 times. God's sakes. I suck at math, but... Yeah, okay, right, yeah, so she rolled like 28, and like the highest you could get is 30. I can't believe I needed a calculator for that, come to think of it, God almighty. So I'm totally useless. Yeah, so she rolls like a 28 and manages to bring down one of the hobgoblins to the west, the goblin chef that had given the command, and also as well put into sleep Clark's wolf. Also as well, Groll had... No, yeah, King Groll had also like bolstered the forces as well, I think given them haste, something like that. So that was kind of worrisome as well. So yeah, so that was really helpful. So now instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in combat, there's now only 6. I say only 6 in combat. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I then Toll the Dead again, killing the hobgoblin after with another one, and bring him low with 7. So, Emil's turn is coming up. He's trying to dodge as best he can, and unfortunately, the goblin next to him brings him unconscious.
They'll be fighting for their lives as the enemy revives. Russians won't surrender, no, striking fear into their foe.
This is where everyone goes quiet. It's Eshvaru and Dongradon, as Garveld had once said. It's on like Donkey Kong. We ain't out now. Everyone is giving it their all, and I genuinely believe that this is mostly because of the chat that we had, the round table, because now everyone is getting it on. The goblin who brought him down said, "That's one little chicken." Groll is now going to attack Eliza's Echo with his greatsword, succeeding with a 23. And Eliza's Echo is summoned once more and slays the goblin that was giving Shoria grief with a 16 to hit and 11 damage. She also attacks my goblin with a 15 to hit, 10 damage, barely standing. I could have read that a bit better. So she attacks my goblin, 15 to hit, 10 damage, and it's barely standing now. She rolls it, which apparently she can do twice per long rest, for 14 damage. I think it was like the piercing feat, I'm not sure. Emil's goblin then disengages and shoots and misses Eliza's Echo. Now Emil is having to do death saves. If he rolls a 1, he gets 2 strikes out of 3. If he rolls below 10, he takes 1 strike. If he rolls above 10, it's 1 success. If he rolls a 20, he comes back with 1 HP. Emil's rolls a 5, and that's his first death save. It only takes a 1 to kill him now, or someone to attack him. Ellie misses with a crossbow with 11. She's getting really frustrated. Like, there's no more joking about now. She really wants this goblin killed. Shoria rolls an Eldritch Blast for 10, misses a hobgoblin, and this is where I have to do my thing. I really struggle with understanding how Spare the Dying works, so I thought, okay, I'm going to spare the dying Emil, and then I'm going to cast Cure Wounds. That's not how it works. So, instead, what the DM allowed me to do is retcon the Spare the Dying, and instead cast Cure Wounds level 2, which does an automatic 2d8 plus 2. That's 18 hit points. Emil didn't quite understand how this worked, but he felt it was awesome, and didn't want to question it too much after it had happened. I hit Groll with my spiritual weapon that I had brought out, and do 9 points of damage. Well done. I didn't write down the hits, actually. But everyone's spirits are much higher now. That Emil's in much better shape, much more fighting fit. There's 3 guys down, and I think there's about 1, 2, 3, I think there's about 4 of them. So. Oh, I also tell the party as well, I think I'm making up for tripping the wire now. The hobgoblin hits me for 8 damage, but I opportunity attack him for 9 damage, and he flews. F-L-E-U-S. He flies? I think I was supposed to say falls. And the tension was getting to me at this point. So anyway, it kills him. So moving on. Groll uses his greatsword for 16 to hit Ellie, and she uses her shield spell. This was amazing. I wish I hadn't just said it like that. She rolls 16, and Ellie's quiet for a second. And just about as the DM's opening their mouth to explain what happens, she says, shield. +5 AC. And our DM is really, really frustrated, forgetting that she had it. Unfortunately, Groll has multi-attack, and he can roll again with a 23 to hit, and instead of having like a 21 AC, it's now 23 to hit. It does 10 damage. Eliza rolls 14 to kill Groll, killing him. And I'm really glad that, because like, Groll was ordering the retreat, and the goblins were going to obey him. But he decided to join in upon seeing everyone falling to sleep, and seeing Emil getting up as well. Eliza shouts out, "There are no feathers that you can pluck!" And and just as Groll's going to come up with a response, she shoves the rapier into his throat, and her echo, I think, behind it as well, also puts one into his lung, so there's absolutely no way he can talk. And the dead weight just falls onto the rapier and brings her down. And she gets up. The goblins that remain are now not necessarily retreating, but they're going to go to the northwesternmost corner. There was a door there that we hadn't seen before, and there are two levers either side. And they pull them together as hard as they can, and they succeed. And they run out the door. And as they do, there is a hooting growl, which, judging by the description alone, we can probably guess what it is. But Emil is allowed to coup de grace the creatures that have fallen. So, so he brings his warhammer down on the goblin chef, saying, "Lunchtime's over." And I put in the chat, "Meal time's over." Anyway, Shoria, she hears this hooting growl, and at this point we're now trying to just kill everything as quickly as we can while they're asleep, because I think they've still got like about another 44 seconds. I've got another 40 seconds of sleep left, so we want to end things as quickly as we can. We're still in combat, but now emerging from this cage is a owlbear that takes up a 20-foot space, and it looks PO'd. It's thin, emaciated, but it looks as though it's going to attack anyone. And that is where we end the session. I genuinely thought that would take a lot longer to talk about, but yeah, that was the session 13. It was an incredible time. We later found out that we killed 16 enemies in this one session. I think that's actually more than we've killed in the entire campaign so far. And yeah, 16. That is quite the body count. And we are only level 3. And we had done this loud. Well, I said loud. We had attempted stealth, but we went loud, and which is very Payday of us. The stats we've got here are like 6 hobgoblins, 7 goblins, including the brutes, 1 wolf and 1 bugbear. Yeah, that was. It was just. Hang on a second, that doesn't. I don't does it. 6 hobgoblins. 13. 15. There was something else I'm not counting. I forgot what it was, but unless there were 3 brutes, I can't remember. I don't know. But yeah, and don't forget as well, 2 retreated successfully towards the north, where King Groll had come from, that corridor. So, yeah, we survived miraculously. Emil had, of course, gone down, but he was caught, and there was no way he was going to survive that. That's why I was so adamant of getting into that room and slaying that hobgoblin, rather than going after the one Shoria was facing off with, because I needed to be in there to try and, if not heal up Emil, then at least just distract the goblins in some other way. But I mean, hey, it may have even got to a point where I had to cast Gentle Repose and use some of those copper coins that I've got. But yeah, that was an incredible game, and that, I think, I genuinely believe that the result of that is what happens when you talk to your players and your GM. That if there's something you're not feeling great about with the game, talk to them. communicates, and it can turn a decent session, a very clinical, a very tactical session that's going to go perfectly smooth, into one that like might actually be a bit more disastrous, but it feels better when things go wrong. And of course, you don't really want things to go wrong. I mean, like that was awesome that it did, but yeah, I can appreciate that not everyone's into that. But yeah, it's like but the game was better because we had properly communicated how we felt about things. So yeah, so that's the next session. So we should be on for the next session this coming Saturday, which I very much look forward to, because that was just insane. So yeah, I'm left speechless. Like I couldn't stop thinking about it. Like, I had a really tough time getting sleep last night because of how awesome that session was, how cool those moments are. And yeah, that might actually make it on RPG Horror Stories or something like that. Or some other D&D story, but yeah, that's when D&D felt like D&D to me. And that's a story that I'm going to be telling quite a lot in the future. So thank you all for watching this session recap, and I hope that the next one is perhaps a bit more uneventful. I think we've all had our fun and enjoyment for the time being. We could do with something a bit slower. But it looks as though we'll be leveling up next session as well, either midway or at the end, depending on when we have a long rest. So we should have our new character, spells, and feats and whatnot ready. So yeah, that's awesome. Right, so thanks for watching, take care, and yeah, may you roll 20s when you absolutely need them. Which we did, and sometimes we did anyway. But yeah, and maybe roll them when you don't need them. Oh no, maybe don't roll them when you need them. That makes for a much more interesting story. It's Dav now.